Matt Rule just added a veteran receiver for quarterback Dylan Raiola. Let's talk about it after the stinger. It's Felix, Sharpe, and Matt Bruening for campus2canton.com. I hope you like what we're doing. We're trying to push college fantasy football, and the transfer portal season is a perfect time to make everyone aware that, college fantasy does exist. We've been tracking players like Dane Key since they were freshmen. He was a freshman with Barry and Brown. Speaking of which, trying to support college fantasy football, do us a favor. We're 250 subscribers away from 4,000. That would be a big deal to us. So give us an early Christmas present. Drop a like on this video. Subscribe to the channel. Cornhuskers fans, let's get this video to 50 likes. Matthew, Kentucky wide receiver Dane Key, or former Kentucky wide receiver Dane Key, is transferring to Nebraska to be really a veteran presence for quarterback Dylan Raiola. They've got Ja'Cory Barney there, but they have, kind of a safety blanket here in Dane Key.
Yeah, it's, I think, an intriguing fit. I mean, he comes in as a .653 athlete in our database, but I think fits what they're losing in Isaiah Nayor, who's going to the NFL. I mean, we saw true freshman Ja'Cory Barney last year break out in a massive way, and likely, I think, still will be the wide receiver one for that team now with Dana Holgorsen taking over as the offensive coordinator. For those of you who don't remember his time at Houston, he was the one who kind of led Tank Dell into this massive seasons for fantasy success. Then we've seen him actually take that onto the NFL with the Houston Texans. Matt Rule's wide receiver ones that have thrived are actually more of those prototypical X wide receivers, which is where I think Dane Key will play in this offense. Go back to the time of Denzel Mims at Baylor, who actually had really good fantasy seasons and college seasons for that Baylor offense. Key played 95% of his snaps out at the X spot for Kentucky last year. Ja'Cory Barney, same thing at the slot. So I think that's a really dynamic duo to give Dylan Raiola, where Nebraska wasn't that bad last year. I know they finished 6-6, but if you look at that schedule, the only game that they were not in was the Indiana game. Even Ohio State, they only lost by 7. Pretty easy schedule next year. I don't know what the fantasy success Dane Key will have here, but overall for Nebraska, I think it's a great get for Ja'Cory Barney to have that kind of alpha to him and Dylan Raiola's fantasy success as well.
I'm going to be honest. I think that Ja'Cory Barney is probably the alpha. Dane Key, you mentioned that .65 athleticism score. That's not great in our database. By the way, you can get access to it at campus2canton.com. Dane Key is a player who doesn't do anything poorly, but doesn't do really anything at an elite level. His teammate there at Kentucky, Barry and Brown, an elite speedster, elite kick return guy, a guy that we think has a very high ceiling. Dane Key is really a jack of all trades, a master of none. And I think Nebraska could use that type of player, because look what Penn State has done with Drew Aller. Not really added a whole bunch of talent around him on the perimeter. Matt Rule's not trying to make this same mistake and trying to, hey, let's get some talented guys around our sophomore quarterback, 2025 sophomore quarterback, to continue to help him grow and reach his ceiling.
Yeah, I mean, listed at 6'3", 195, and I think that's exactly, he's going to be that big target that Dylan Raiola can throw the ball to. You mentioned, not quite the athleticism we'd like to see. I mean, when he can get going, he's got some pretty good top-end speed, but it takes him a little bit. It's not like Ja'Cory Barney, who's got that quick burst and top speed fairly quickly. But Dane Key does have those long legs. He can get his stride going. I think that he's a decent route runner, but does struggle to break his routes off, and is an okay after the threat receiver. But Ja'Cory Barney, I think, I agree with you. He will be the alpha. But if you think about it, too, as I mentioned, Nebraska last year, 6-6 bowl game. I said it when Raiola committed to them. You go back and look at our freshman video on him. They're going to make the playoffs at some point in time in Nebraska. Their schedule next season: Cincinnati, Akron, Michigan, Michigan State, Maryland, Minnesota, Northwestern, USC, UCLA, Penn State, Iowa. I think the only game you would give an edge to, the other team a significant edge, is Penn State. We could be looking at Nebraska fighting for a playoff spot next year, and I think adding Key is a good thing for that offense to help them do that.
Cornhuskers fans, we're 250 away from 4,000 subscribers. Help us get there. Like the video. Let us know your thoughts in the comments about adding Dane Key.